Hello, everyone. This is The Oral Tradition with Jordy
and David.
This is our first podcast, so we've been experimenting, and you will hear some alternative titles that we were working on before we came to the final decision that the proper title would be The Oral Tradition.
Yes.
If you like it, thumbs up in the comment hole.
Yes. The Oral Tradition is a podcast about storytelling, and in this one we focus on Rogue One, a film, but we might branch it out to lots of other forms of storytelling.
It's an adventure.
A real adventure. It ends with a cliffhanger. Stay tuned.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and everyone in between. I'm Jordy.
And I'm David.
And we are going to be doing some really exciting stuff for you today. We don't have a title for this yet.
Yeah. Here's the title.
Yoinks! My nipples!
Starring David and Jordy.
I
love it. So, ladies and gentlemen, and everything in between, we're here talking about Rogue One today.
Everyone in between.
Everything in between.
Ladies and gentlemen. Good start.
Sorry.
We're going to be talking about a movie we just saw.
How do we say it?
Here,
Disney. The Walt Disney Production Studios, LucasArts, Star Wars Extended Universe, Rogue One, a Star Wars story.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure I got that all in there.
Yes.
Like we were saying before we started recording, we're pretty sure everyone said everything that needs to be said about Rogue One, but not us.
We haven't
said things.
Oh, we have many things to say.
We need to put it out there. So we're just fresh out of Rogue One. What is an initial 2-word reaction, Jordy?
Zoinks, my nipples.
And my initial 2-word reaction is headache, my nipples. So we're really, we took some notes. We're just going to do a general deep dive, I guess, and freeform.
But for folks who live in caves, or perhaps on the dark side of the moon, could you give a simple, just direct explanation of what Rogue One, or should I say, Walt Disney Motion Pictures, Lucasfilms, Star Wars, Rogue One, a Star Wars story. Plot.
Yes, I can give a brief summary. Also, spoiler alert. If you care about spoilers at all, which we can get into, neither of us tend to care about spoilers too much.
Yeah, and you shouldn't either.
Yeah.
Yeah, dum-dums.
We might make an episode about that by itself.
Just kidding. I also don't like spoilers.
Oh, okay.
I value the experience, but this film was spoiled for me. I knew how it was going to end, which is, spoiler alert, everyone dies. Everyone dies.
Well, I mean, that takes care of most of the plot.
Yeah, pretty much. That's it. It's just
a bunch of humans get together, they do some stuff, and then they die.
It's true. I think that's the plot of life.
So Rogue One. If I had to summarize Rogue One briefly, it is the story of the Rebel Alliance fighters who basically took the plans, like they basically found the codes, they found the secret blueprints that gave the Rebel Alliance the weakness to the Death Star in Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope. We meet great characters such as Jyn, Cassian,
Orson Krennic,
Saw Gerrera,
Chirrut Imwe, Bodhi Rook, Baz Malbus,
Maze.
Is
there a Maze?
Yes. No. That's Baze. Baze Malbus, and
that's
of course,
what it was.
everyone's favorite film, K2SO.
K2SO. Everyone's favorite character.
Yeah, everyone's favorite character in the film, K2SO.
K2SO.
Yeah.
That sounds kind of Spanish.
Que tú eso. Well, he is the or they are. I don't know the robot's gender, but they are Diego Luna's right-hand person. Diego Luna is Latino in real life.
Cool.
Yeah.
Diego Luna was also in Game of Thrones, wasn't he?
I believe.
Am I thinking of this the right
He was
person?
in Y Tu Mama Tambien.
Really?
Yeah.
That's the same dude? I need to see a picture.
Guy,
Oh my
yes.
gosh.
There he is.
He totally is!
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. How
Yeah.
time flies. Side note, if you haven't seen Y Tu Mama Tambien and you're looking for a very, like, well-observed, romantic bro comedy in Spanish, it's very good. Directed by Alfonso Cuarón of other filmy fames.
Gravity.
Yes, Gravity.
Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. You should know, though...
Children of Men.
Y Tu Mama Tambien has no fantastical elements, though,
No.
except the fantastical bodies of its three main leads.
And an omniscient narrator, but I digress.
So it starts off at the beginning. Research scientist Galen Urso and his family are hiding on the planet Lahmu. And I thought I was immediately like engaged with it visually.
Yep.
I think that the film is really nice looking.
Yep.
For a lot of it.
Yep.
And having that villain, what's his name? Kendrick Lamar.
Kendrick Lamar will only ever be a hero.
You're right. That's my bad. Orson Krennic. He's all in white, clad all in white, and then his stormtroopers, his special like private mercenaries are all like shiny black, and it just makes a really stark, powerful image at the beginning as they're approaching the homestead of Gorso Gimlops and his wife Lydia and his daughter
Jennifer Furlong.
Yeah.
I had the same reaction to like the people landing, the stormtroopers landing on the thing. I don't remember there being black stormtroopers in any other of the Star Wars films.
No.
So I thought it was real bold of them to have stormtroopers that weren't white.
Exactly. It's very progressive.
So totally. No. I wrote a note that the movie is serious. It sets a dark tone because the stormtroopers are black, the soil on the farm is black.
Exactly.
And there's a segment where one of the black stormtroopers picks up a doll of like a white stormtrooper, and I thought to myself, "Oh, is this some really poignant symbolism of Rogue One sort of saying like, no, Star Wars, these are toys, this is kid stuff,
this isn't
and
a
then
game."
They throw it to the side, because that is my understanding of how Rogue One was kind of produced. People were essentially trying to say like, okay, like maybe we're losing some adults, like maybe parents are getting tired of driving their kids to Star Wars movies, so let's make this one feel a lot more grown up, dark, gritty.
So Rogue
Shades
One.
of Grey, all that stuff.
I mean,
Things happen.
Star Wars: The
Lots
Force
of things
Awakens. We have Jin.
only
We
the
have third most successful film of all time. So they're dropping.
Yeah, I think
They
they need to get their act together.
They gotta get their poop together. So I wrote specifically goob visuals with a B at the beginning. I did feel though that we jumped right into the drama, which myself and David are both improvisers, and you're taught in improv when creating a story not to jump right into the drama or the problem, the conflict, because then it's very hard for you to empathize with the characters because they're not experiencing the day-to-day routine. Like if you go back to the original Star Wars film, you spend like whatever 10 minutes or so drinking blue milk and shooting the poop with what's his face, Luke Skywalker
father, or just Luke
Skywalker,
his surrogate or whatever.
With his family, with his adopted family, his aunt and uncle and him, before the drama happens. So when it happens, it's much more potent.
Like, oh, these nice people, they're getting disturbed.
Yeah.
And then as an audience member, you wonder to yourself, like, you know, you don't want these nice people to be bothered. They're so nice. But I noticed the exact same thing, that the movie basically starts with the child running in peril. And I'll be referring to some little timestamps throughout, but like, I was looking for specifically just a moment where the main character makes a choice of some kind. She makes a choice, sort of, in the very beginning when she's running away from the
and then she decides
things,
to come back.
and she turns back and then she runs back toward the family. So that's something. But generally, she didn't make any really strong choice until 32 minutes in. And I only bring this up because I remember there's a wonderful YouTube channel called Lessons from the Screenplay that did a very, very direct comparison between The Force Awakens and between Rogue One in terms of their screenwriting functionality. And a lot of that video emphasizes how much... What's the female character in Force Awakens?
Oh, Dingle.
How Dingle in The Force Awakens... there are a lot of clear moments where that character makes choices. Yeah,
Rey. That just popped into my head.
She makes some choices, and it's then much more engaging to watch as a protagonist because we feel as an audience that they have some sort of influence in their world. There are a lot of moments with Jyn that she does not really have a lot of influence in her world.
Yeah, exactly. So she gets So that's
the opening.
So yeah, that's the opening. Her dad is a scientist who ends up building the Death Star against his will, and then he, over time, sets a trap within the Death Star so it could be destroyed. And this is pretty much a very direct sequel to the first film, A New Hope. In which that information is brought to Princess Leia and then brought from her to the rebels. So we move on, and then we're introduced in quick succession to a bunch of other random characters, including Bodhi Rook and Cassian Andor and Mon Mothma and the planet Jeddah. And yeah,
quick, in terms of traveling or whatever and locations that they pass by, I did write down they stopped at a planet called Wobani, which is spelled Wobani, and I just took 2 seconds looking at that word, and I was like, Obi-Wan. Whoa. Wobani. They made Obi-Wan into a planet, even though he couldn't be in this movie, and I thought that was real nice.
That's nice. Little Easter eggs. I did think that there were definitely a lot of Easter eggs that were pretty overt, and at the same time, they integrated them pretty well. So the machinations just really start going. I do think that the plot is pretty expedient, in that beginning. Definitely there's action happening. It's just there isn't that time set up to with any of the characters to set up their intentions. Specifically, they all have wants. Cassian wants to support the rebellion, and what's his name, Bodhi Rook, is looking for Saw Gerrera. Just all these different characters do have intentions, but they don't have any needs as characters. There's a difference between the want of the character. I want to be rich, but I need what does the richness give me that's sort of the real need of me.
Yeah.
There's I want to be rich, stakes. But I need comfort. I need a sense of that, and that's my unspoken drive for all the things I want. So characters who just want these highfalutin things, like Cassian wants to support the rebellion. Why does he want to support the rebellion? What's the need that supporting the rebellion gives him? And they don't really explain that for pretty much any of the characters.
Yeah, and I think that drives a lot into them feeling like they don't really have personalities, which is something that we started joking about pretty early on in the movie. Is like the only one that really feels like he has a personality is ¿Qué tú eso? Because he's making jokes and like he seems to just like so. In terms of talking about like wants and needs, he's programmed to be like a risk assessment robot. So he needs to feel safe. So he's always saying these things in regards to how safe things in. It's a very like simple joke to make because these characters are always going to be in dangerous situations.
But he plays at it.
Exactly.
It's very direct.
Exactly.
And like even more simple than that, at the very beginning, when things start moving and Jin meets up with Cassian and Jin gets to have a blaster and K2SO is like, why don't I get to have a blaster? And that's a very simple, silly little thing, but it pays off later on when she gives him a blaster back and they have a nice little moment. A well-structured, like, adventure blockbuster film should have a lot of that in there so that you're constantly... So everything set up in the first half of your film pays off really well in the second half. Or at the beginning of the film, it seems like the relationship between her and her father is very important. And that should be a central thread. But then it's not really. And nor is she looking for a father figure or anything. Like, nothing that happens in those first minutes of the film directly influence her action.
Yeah.
So it meanders a lot with its character stuff, which I think makes it harder to invest in the action, which is pretty consistent.
Yeah, there was a whole piece of the film that was sort of like seeming like it was trying to paint Star Wars has always been this sort of kids' property, and the Alliance versus the Imperial Army has always been a sort of very black and white issue. Yeah. And it seemed like they tried to sort of like blur the lines, like a little like bit, morality is like grayer. And I think that so when we were talking immediately after, I was like, I feel like there's ambition in this film. I think they tried to be ambitious with Jin's character. I think they were trying to sort of make some sort of character who seemed to be at like a morally gray space within themselves. That's why there's that whole conversation between her and Cassian, because they're arguing and she says something along the lines of like, I've never had the privilege to think about politics or something like that. So
and then later on he says almost a exact same line but opposite. Like he says like, I didn't get to have the privilege of not caring or something like that.
So I think that kind of stuff, you know, is really interesting territory for probably a different dramatic conflict than was necessary in this movie, because like the whole arc of this movie is about like performing this operation and like sending those plans and trying not to let everybody die, even though everyone dies in the end anyway. And so the morally gray stuff doesn't necessarily make for engaging protagonists when they're like on a very direct journey, because most of the stuff that they have to do is quite simple anyway. I thought a nice so I don't know, listeners might find out that I'm a big fan of what I call nutshell lines, which are just lines that encapsulate a character or a movie in like a very like succinct way. And one of the lines was in like the very, very beginning, where the father figure character, Jin's father, says, you're confusing peace with terror. And then the, what's his name, Krennic says, well, you have to start somewhere. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess this movie has ideas about, like, pacifism and, like, terrorism and, like, war and violence and, like, that sort of thing. But it doesn't necessarily make good on those leanings, as far as I saw.
I wrote for myself, this film almost comes across as a pro-war film. Like, the actions, a lot of the action in the film seems like it's showing, it's more about the end. The ends justify the means. Like, there's no good characters in the Empire. there are morally dubious characters in the Alliance, but they're excused because their intention is good. So a character like Saw Gerrera,
Forrest Whitaker.
Forrest Whitaker is a terrorist. Is like causing local terrorism in Jeddah, blowing up cargo ships, and he's viewed as, they use the term extremist in the film to refer to him, but he's viewed as a hero in the context of the film because he is fighting for the side that we're supposed to engage with, and there's no real questioning of the actions that the Alliance takes, because the ends justify the means, because in war there is a right and wrong side. So it's fascinating that they are talking about, there is a little bit of like moral grayness being played with, and at the same time it's still very much like the Alliance is right, the Empire is wrong. Like there's that one speech halfway through that Jin has after her father has died, after her father gets killed, and she's just trying to bolster the troops and say, what's the point of us carrying on if we're not willing to fight for what we think is right?
Summed up with that great line, one fighter with a sharp stick and nothing left to lose can save the day.
Exactly. Which is a line that she takes from Saw Gerrera. So it's interesting. They might show greatness in the actions the characters commit, but they don't show any greatness in the intentions that those actions have. There is a good side and bad side.
Because we said we didn't see their needs, so it's all consistent. But like, maybe the reason this movie doesn't work is because it's really just, it's so genius and it's so smart.
Yeah, that's it. You're probably right. It's just so subtle.
Yeah.
And
so we didn't get it.
But like, was there any point where you were watching and you were like, maybe the Empire, there's heroes on both sides?
Yeah, just real quick about like empathizing with the Empire. I did genuinely find the Imperial General Krennic charismatic, like the actor is, but also I found his sort of plight as this very like just frustrated general. I found that a lot more interesting than any of the stuff that the rebels were going through.
Yeah.
Because it just seems so clear of like the stuff that he wanted to do and how much he really valued like being in this situation, and he was failing and then trying to like overcome these things.
Yeah.
I don't think there were any moments where like the heroes of the film were failing and then like overcoming anything. I think they just like were at certain points of tension and then they just sort of like get out of them.
Yeah, totally.
And I think there's like, that's another big way to like create empathy for characters, is like we'd watch them kind of fuck up a little bit. Because like that's what people do. And when we watch someone make a mistake and we see how the mistake they made isn't lining up with their ideals for themselves, it's relatable because everyone does that constantly. And I saw a lot of that in the Krennic character. And he gets choked by Vader. He gets usurped by CG character man. He gets like frustrated at the incompetence of his men. Like a whole bunch of things sort of happen to him, and I'm like, I want to see this Krennic character a little bit more. So like in that way, I empathized with what the Empire was doing because I was like, this character's interesting. But all that said, it's not like he's shown to like be to have like higher moral ideals or whatever, and he's just sort of like being like pressed into this job. Like he's looking at it as a job, but really he's just trying to take care of his family, or like he's been blackmailed or something. Like very
he's empathetic at a story structure level because he's interesting, but at a character level, like we're not they don't intentionally give him traits that are empathetic. Like
he's not a nice man.
He's an awful person, but he has strong needs. He needs power. It's not something he wants. Like he wants the Death Star to succeed because he needs to be powerful. That's why, for some reason, he's clad in this long white robe and
very ostentatious.
Very ostentatious. When you then see Ultimate Moff Tarkin with his CG 3D face, wears like a very simple black or like gray suit, which is much more akin to the rest of the. As far as I know, I'm sure there's somebody out there who's being like, well, actually, the white robes that he wears is for this specific...
He's from the Bling Bling clan.
Exactly. From planet Cool Ice Water.
Yes, Cool Ice Water, the planet. I see what you did there.
My favorite planet in Rogue One was the planet Yaddo.
Wait, is that a reference at all?
Yeah, that's Yoda. But I just...
Oh my god!
I know, exactly. It works so well you don't even realize when it's happening.
I mean, story stuff, let's see. I did write, finally at the 42-minute mark was when Jyn said what she wants. I think both you and I noticed that moment.
Yeah.
Because another character outright asked her, so what is it that you want? And she said, something. Do you remember?
I don't.
Dang it.
But it obviously doesn't come across, because that's the thing is too, that's before her dad dies. And her want changes when her dad dies, because her dad says, you have to destroy it. And she says, okay, Dad. So pretty much she just wants to make her daddy happy.
Yeah.
And that's her want.
Yeah. Ugh. So it's just a little muddy.
It's a little muddy. I did write, the film keeps things moving forward. It's both like tight in the sense that there's constant action happening, and like things are moving from one planet to the next planet, and people are saying, we gotta go here, okay, let's take this, and now we have to diddle with the Death Star, and etc. But because of things we mentioned before, it feels meandering, excuse me. And what I was thinking was like, there's actually lots of high fantasy stories that do kind of have a bit like a very similar meandering sense to their plots. Like Lord of the Rings,
I was just gonna say,
goes all over the place. Game of Thrones meanders a ton. So I don't really have an answer for it, but I think it has to do with character. That having a story that's very episodic and moves from action to action to action, if the characters aren't there to tie it together, then the story sort of fails, or the story sort of loses its interest. Yeah.
I mean, it's like I was saying before, this movie has a lot more going on than just characters and story.
Yeah.
It has robots, it has aliens, it has ships, it has lots of explosions, it even has martial arts. This is like the first sort of like real dig into some sort of martial arts other than like lightsaber fu in the other movies. It has landscapes. It has starscapes.
So story and character.
Are set dressing, you know?
That's how I view it. It's just like mostly.
I'm being sarcastic.
I don't think they heard you. You whispered it.
I'm being sarcastic.
There we go. Did I have anything else I wanted to say about this?
Story-wise, I mean, how did you feel about the conclusion? We were sort of like, once the climax of the film was happening, and there were about like 4 locations of focus sort of managing what was happening action-wise. We were so sort of uninvested character-wise that a lot of it seemed like mayhem.
Yeah, and then people started dying, and we were just like, there they go. There goes that character.
Yeah. They all start falling down.
There goes that character. And they just kept going. And I think it got some praise, and I'm sure there's definitely audience members who watched it and they were like, how audacious. They kill all the characters. But you shouldn't be able to watch a film where all the main characters die and not be devastated or feel cheated at the end.
Yeah.
Because if you're invested fully in characters, then you have to be very, like, strategic about how you kill them and who you kill. Because, like, if at the end of Star Wars, the original film, they just kind of went...
Yeah.
And killed everybody, people would be frustrated. Mm-hmm. But because this film, the characters don't really engage you, when they do all die at the end, it sort of makes you think that you connected with them because they died. And so there was that automatic emotional payoff of when characters are killed.
Mm-hmm.
But...
Yeah. And I think there is also some just like... some cinematic sleight of hand going on because we're shown a whole bunch of like really genuinely incredible imagery of like ships smashing into each other mm-hmm. and beaches being obliterated and lasers and generals looking very solemn. Well, a lot of the sort of action noise drops down a couple levels while the score swells and gets all woo-woo and sad.
And then
which sort of is is just shorthand for emotional time.
Exactly.
Which in a movie that had sort of justified all of the character business beforehand, it would have been pretty intense going through that. But because so much of it is very surface level and we don't really understand these people very well, it just feels like a music video, like much more just sensory overload. Yeah. And then people die in the sense that, I don't know, we just feel a sense of loss in the sense that like something's over, not like we were genuinely feeling like we were looking at a real person or whatever.
Yeah. They're just images. And then I had a thought. It reminded me, because a lot of people are also saying, oh, this isn't just a Star Wars film. This is a war film.
Sure.
This is like Platoon. This is Apocalypse Now.
Oh, yeah.
Of the Star Wars world. And that is a trope in war films. It even happens in like Dunkirk, where the music build goes up and then the mm-hmm. sound goes down and then people start getting plowed down. Mm-hmm. So like maybe that was an intentional homage. I think of Platoon, where there's that very famous classical piece that plays. It's like, and then somebody gets mowed down and then they fall down and they look like Jesus. Mm. So there was something there. There is intention to it.
Totally.
It also could be that they were like, shoot, we created 20 new characters and none of them show up in any of the films succeeding this one. So let's kill them. Mm-hmm. And we'll pretend they never existed.
Exactly. And that was kind of the other joke that we made, is that like, you know, maybe they didn't want to put in the effort of having sympathetic characters if they knew that they were going to die at the end. Because just some background on the writing of this story is that the story was sort of devised by two folks, let's say 15 or 20 years ago, which I could easily see happening. And then the screenplay was written much more recently by... You know,
I don't know if it was made that long ago.
No, I know, but the screenplay was written probably a lot more recently.
Yeah,
I'm just ballparking around like when this story idea sort of bubbled up in a Star Wars office.
Yeah.
So if they were given that framework to work from the beginning of that, like, you know, they're going to do this and it's going to be really intense when the Death Star finally goes off at the end and none of these heroes are going to survive because of their noble sacrifice or whatever. I could potentially see it's a very pessimistic way to look at it, but like I could see like screenwriters looking at that and being like, well, forget it. Like I'm not writing a story of my own. I'm just gonna make this work. I'm gonna get the paycheck.
Yeah, they don't really.
I can't think of a way to make all these puzzle pieces fit in order to justify this ending that's very like nihilistic and very just made to fit into another larger piece of a thing.
Yeah,
it's a lot of reverse engineering. I think that would be very frustrating creatively.
Yeah,
I imagine
it doesn't feel entirely earned. I look forward to when Star Wars goes like fully like 19A and like, what if the Han Solo prequel film was like Logan, level.
Yeah!
And it just starts with him just fucking the heck out of an alien lady.
Yeah, and then he goes out into the street and somebody messes with him and he's like, what the heck? He has some weird accent for some reason. And then he just shoots people when they look at him wrong.
It was like, and he's always saying, I shoot first, ba-bam, kaboom, boom, slap, boom. And then he's a drug kingpin. That's what it turns out that Jabba the Hutt is actually pushing. Is like
totally.
Is
Makes
like
sense.
high quality space cocaine.
Yeah, and he has really intense scenes of just like berating people.
Yeah,
and like
misogyny.
Totally. Overdosing. Why not? You know, the best way to get to people's hearts is to shock them.
Yeah, totally. And then there's like an actual like sexual tension between him and Chewbacca.
Yeah,
because everybody's been thinking it for years, and we haven't been able to show it.
I'm pretty positive there's Han Solo Chewbacca Rule 34 online. And like all of this is to say, I don't know, we did also sort of make a joke like that the tightest screenplays are the ones where no one survives at the end. It's the way to make sure that all the loose ends are tied. Instead of giving people arcs, you just cut them all short.
Just kill them all immediately.
So it can be pretty empty feeling. So that's probably a capper on how we feel about the story of the film. We'll take a brief break, and we'll be right back after touching ourselves to Han Solo and Chewbacca pornography.
And we're back, ladies and gentlemen, and everybody in between.
Pew, 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 pew. Everything in between.
I really don't think that's the angle to go with that one.
It's not marketable?
No, I don't think so. Not for the demographic we're aiming for.
I was thinking before of the intro
of teenage girls.
Right. I was thinking before of a sign-on being howdy doody, people and pets. because it would cover all humans and people who hang out with their pets. And I say pets because there's no way a wild animal would be able to access a podcast.
True. Well, who knows? Howdy doody, people and pets.
Howdy doody, people and pets.
Sure, let's do it. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Howdy doody, people and pets.
Yeah, Dave.
Boom.
And we're back talking about Rogue One. So we wrapped up talking about story details.
Now we're going to talk about everything else.
Everything else.
Starting with Forrest Whitaker.
Please. He seems to be taxing you spiritually.
So, Forrest Whitaker...
Wait, before you raise your voice, I do want to say I thought his performance was fine given the material.
Right.
Go on.
Forrest Whitaker has a different accent in every single film I've seen him in.
Okay.
And they're always bad.
Oh, shoot.
He's always... He was good in The Last King of Scotland, but I always just feel like he's just acting too much. And I can't... And it distracts me, because I always feel like I'm seeing just sweaty Forrest Whitaker, eye-poppy, sweaty Forrest Whitaker putting on a goofy accent.
Dang.
I felt that way about Arrival. Like, because he puts on this Boston accent for no reason. He could have just had, like, a plain American accent, but instead he's like, hi, I'm what's his name? Colonel Weber, and I gotta tell you something about... I don't know a Boston accent, but you get what I'm saying.
Sure.
Because
if he sounded like that, that's an understandably terrible Boston accent.
Oh, and he's from Longview, Texas. I thought he was English.
Oh.
That goes to show just how, like...
How scattered you are by his performance.
Yeah.
To really throw you off. That's a shame. I think he's one of the great actors of our time. I haven't seen a lot of Forrest Whitaker.
I've seen him in Arrival.
But he's won an Academy Award, Jordy. Doesn't that mean he's unimpeachable?
I don't know. Jennifer Lawrence has won 2 Academy Awards.
Has she really?
Let me double
No,
check
I think she's won 1. And she's won 2 Golden Globes, maybe. But
No. Not yet.
that movie Mother looks real fun.
Yeah, that looks like something. So anyway, that's my opinion on Forrest Whitaker in general. In this performance, I was like, where is this accent coming from? Like, what was the intention of the voice he was putting on?
I was going to say, who are we to say that any accent chosen in any space opera is a hokey accent, because that sort of universe could lend itself to any accents. Right. In which case,
Diego Luna's very obvious Mexican accent. I shouldn't assume Mexican. I actually don't know where Diego Luna's from.
Because I would be
Mexico, Mexico City, Mexico.
Oh, good for you.
Well done, Jordy.
That was a close call.
Yeah, right. So obviously, Mexican accent could just be from a planet.
Be from Doya. What was it called? Yado. So all that to say, maybe Forrest Whitaker was the perfect choice for that character because they wanted someone who could really convey a sense of otherworldliness in the character of Saw Gerrera.
Yeah, totally.
You don't buy it. I get it.
No.
You hate Forrest Whitaker. Whatever.
Oh my goodness. So Saw
Gerrera.
I wondered why Saw Gerrera's name sounded weirdly Latino.
Okay.
Because Gerrera sounds like... The name is a mnemonic riff on the Argentinian revolutionary Che Guevara.
Is it really? So this whole terrorist angle is definitely on point.
And then Guerrera is also a heterograph of the Spanish word guerrera, meaning female warrior. So I guess guerrero would be male warrior.
Cool.
Anywho.
This is interesting stuff.
Yeah.
This is good content.
Yeah, that's what we're all about here at Jordy and David.
Jordy, Jorbo, and David.
Jordy, Jorbo, and David, right. Because the flamingo's still here.
It's behaving well, though, I gotta say.
Wait, where's he going?
Uh-oh.
Where's that flamingo going?
Uh-oh. Jorbo! Jorbo, get away from the ledge. Jorbo, get away from the balcony. Jorbo! Jorbo, come back inside! There's cats out there! So any other standout performances? CG character man.
Yeah, CG character man.
Grand Moff Tarkin, which enough of it has really been said about. I don't know if I have anything new to contribute to that conversation other than we were going to say Mama Moff Tarkin. I mean, Mon Mothma. Mon Mothma.
What?
Right now, Jordy's looking up if Mon Mothma was also a CG character. I'm staunchly a believer that she's not a CG character, that was a real actress, and that only Grand Moff Tarkin was a CG character because I'm sure that was a very expensive thing to do. All in the name of fan service. A very noble goal.
I know. They could have had they could have just had another random...
I know. They could have pulled an Aunt Vivian and just had another actor.
Exactly.
Do you know what I'm referring to?
Do they replace Aunt Vivian in... No.
Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Yeah?
Yeah, they have two actresses play Aunt Vivian over the course of the series. And both of them were great. Both actresses served the material really well and had their own
style.
Much
moments. Like Dumbledore.
Dumbledore as well.
Yeah, Dumbledore as well.
From Grand Theft Auto.
Dumbledore. He's
the doorman. Sorry.
I sort of wish there had been one more Dumbledore, like that he was kind of like a Doctor Who type thing.
There's a League of Dumbledores.
Yeah,
that would be great.
Each one is slightly different and gives a different energy to it.
Totally.
Yeah.
And they each have like a kind of different persona. So I just looked at the do you remember the symbol? People are gonna scream about it too, but the philosophers, the falafels trifecta.
Yeah, the one that has the wand.
Yeah, the wand, the stone, and the cape.
Yeah,
that looks like that thing.
Yeah.
That you can find in many a teenage girl's journals and notebooks, spanning the 2000s to present. if like each of the actors playing Dumbledore kind of had personas somewhat similar to each of these things. Now I'm just being silly. But I could say the first Dumbledore was maybe like an invisibility cape, and then maybe the second Dumbledore was maybe a bit of a rock. Yeah. Because he's just got gravitas. And then the other one would be a stick, and he'd be 9 feet tall and very skinny.
Yeah, I like it. I think that would work really, really well.
He'd be a real straight shooter. Okay, so Mon Mothma,
not CG. She was an actress who had played Mon Mothma in the prequel series, but her scenes were cut, and then she returned for this. However, she was born the year that the first Star Wars film came out, in 1977.
Huh.
She's also Irish.
Huh. I couldn't tell.
No,
also, but that's important.
There's also Bail Organa, who was played by Jimmy Smits, who I mentioned when we first started watching, when he entered and like the Star Wars do 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 theme came in. It's because he is Leia's adopted father.
Right.
Yeah.
Bail
Organa, because her name is Leia Organa.
Right. Oh. And so was that character played by another actor in the prequels?
No, he was played by the same actor. But it makes sense because he would be older at this point than he would have been in the prequels.
Sorry. The episode 4, 5, 6. Did that character appear in the original series?
No, that he was killed off screen on the planet because his planet that he lives on, Alderaan, is the first planet exploded, I'm pretty sure, by the Death Star.
Wild.
Yeah.
So we never see that character on screen, but he is referred to by name?
I think so.
I mean, these are very specific questions regarding a very, inconsequential character, but that's very interesting. I'm glad they included him.
Right, yeah. Alderaan is blown up by the Death Star.
Okay. Oh no.
Anyways, that's all I have to say about those characters. What did you think of the lead who played Jyn?
I think she's fine. Felicity Jones doesn't need to be shit on anymore. I think she took a lot of flack for that character, which isn't fair.
Not to her.
When it's just a poor or messy script.
She wasn't given anything to do.
Yeah, because there is a scene where they hold a shot on her and she's like reacting to some of the news that her father gives in that hologram message, and you can tell Felicity wants to act, she wants to be. I know that sounds very backhanded, but I think it's basically what I mean. She wants to be
able to. She just can't.
Yeah. And I think it's understandable that she just doesn't really come across as very charismatic or anything when the character is written in a very milquetoast way.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, exactly. I think that it's less to do with her skills as an actress and more to do with just what she was given to work with. I liked the dynamic between Donnie Yen and Jiang Wen.
Sure. Yes.
I would have liked to see more, just their story of one being this very straight-laced monk type character. Also, the monk was the Chinese guy. I feel like that didn't need to touchy. Be. I feel like that was.
He was also a martial artist.
Yeah, he was also
stereotype.
However, I do know that there's a lot of talk of leaning towards the Chinese market in big films like this. Yeah. So having two major stars from China playing into the stereotypes they play, in the films they do in China, it would make sense. That's why he does that. He's famous for being a martial artist. Totally. So they put him into this film as a martial artist. Yeah. And then that's true. A connection that audiences in that country can have to the film. And that will only bolster its success of the film financially. But yeah, I thought their dynamic was really cool. It was a bit of a Han Solo Chewbacca thing, kind of like one, just like one being a rogue and the other being a Buddhist. Chewbacca's a Buddhist. It's not talked about a lot in the original series,
but I see. It's a man of few words. Sorry, Wookiee of few words. We're so clearly invested in the Star Wars mythos. I mean, you come across a lot more authentic because you're looking at a laptop this entire time.
No. It's all straight out of my head.
I don't know if the typing sounds are coming through the microphone, but there it is. That's the dead giveaway.
I gotta hack into the mainframe.
The mainframe of Star Wars.
Of Star Wars lore. Hashtag Wikipedia.
So, actors, kudos. Keep up the work. Keep representing things at Comic-Con, touring, bolstering your social media accounts. And if you're from another country, going back to your country and doing good work there.
Or staying in America. And continuing to make great work wherever you want. You're free to make...
Yeah, make films. Work here, make work there, make work everywhere.
At least it's not the Marvel films where at the same time, this international cast of characters is also in a film where every single character is killed off, so none of them can take part in other films. They're getting there. They're working on it.
Yeah. Count what counts, you know?
Yeah. I'm excited for the Black Panther
I was just going to say, actually.
Yeah.
I heard really good things about a Black Panther comic that has been rebooted.
Roxane Gay wrote, parts of it.
Yeah.
Or wrote a whole one of the, ones, and it seems, really, really cool.
Yeah. We were just going to briefly talk about some technical stuff about the film. The most interesting part for last.
Yeah, the best part of the film.
Because realistically, I think the Star Wars films are technically incredible films.
Yeah, and visually, I love the world that they inhabit.
I like the costumes.
Yeah, Jeddah.
On the planet of Jeddah, I do want to say the music, a lot of the sings they used when they were first landing on the planet. I thought that music was really evocative. It was one of the few kind of standout moments for the score.
And then there were a whole bunch of there feels like there was very much an internal costuming logic in both Jeddah and in the other place they're at before that, the other city.
Goya?
Maybe.
Goya's a cracker company.
Oh, David.
Not a planet.
But there was a lot of these characters who were all quite tall and had red box heads and then head dressings or coverings and then long red robes and they kept wandering around the streets with swords, and they seemed to be a part of some sort of soldier or police thing, and they're never referenced or talked about in the actual action of the film, but they're there and they make that city feel alive and real because there's very much specific hierarchies and structures of how people dress codes, etc. in the city. It's cool.
All the CGI looked really good. I thought there were really striking shots of the spaceships. I mean, I joke before that the spaceships, are what the movie's really all about. Not character and story, but and the spaceships are really cool looking.
Yeah,
and
totally.
I've always loved the effect of them kind of very quietly going into warp drive and quietly coming out of warp drive.
Just appearing.
Yeah. Just
especially the huge ships just kind of going, whoa.
Yeah.
It's super cool. Yeah.
I want a movie about that. Sorry, go on.
Just ships coming and going. There's a TV series. It's called Battlestar Galactica.
Ooh.
It's really great.
Does it have characters?
Oh my god. It has such characters, the likes of which you would not believe. Because that's the great thing about especially that period of time in television history is they didn't have the money to just have big explosions, so you kind of have to focus on character. So yeah, the characters are really, really strong.
We edited it out. You'll never know what it was. I say that about wraps it up then for our thoughts on Rogue Uno.
Yeah, great.
Starring Ketueso.
Ketueso, great character. Or at least maybe it was just in stark contrast to all the other characters. He seems so fun, but yeah, great character. What are 3 takeaways you have from this film?
Takeaway number 1. I don't need to see more Star Wars movies. Takeaway number 2. That's a lie though, because I'm so curious about the Rian Johnson directed episode 8.
Yeah.
I'm so curious because he was so smart.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's takeaway number 1.
Yeah.
Takeaway number 2 is I connect a lot with characters that are funny in Star Wars and characters that are very visually strange or unique in Star Wars. I think because there's a lot of characters like that, and I think that stuff is the most interesting to me.
Yeah.
Takeaway number 3 is I'll be most excited about a Star Wars film if it takes place completely disconnected from everything that we've ever seen about Star Wars before. We joked briefly, what if there was a Star Wars movie about the first Jedi? And I'm sure there's probably like a book, exactly, that people have made.
Yeah.
Or fan fiction online. It's endless, really.
Probably there's pornography about it. Look it up. The first Jedi, Rule 34.
So those are my 3 takeaways.
Nice.
What are yours?
My 3 takeaways are how important setting up character is to investing in a film, and like what can take an okay, well-produced film to like a genuinely great film or a very, very good film. I think the best films, big blockbusters, the ones that have been most successful critically and financially, that have both, are the ones that have really strong character stuff. Guardians of the Galaxy has really, really strong characters. The Marvel's Avenger film, the first one at least, has like really, really strong characters. 2, I love space opera. Space opera's so fun. I wish there was more space opera. I wish that all the other space operas that are coming out right now weren't bombing. Because Jupiter Ascending is a space opera, and it bombed miserably. And then there was a film that both of us were super excited for, called Valerian and the City of 1,000 Planets. Valerian and the City of 1,000 Planets, something like that. And that also bombed like really severely. So I'd like to see a non-Star Wars, really well-made space opera. Maybe a TV series, maybe like a gritty Game of Thrones type space opera TV series.
Ender's Game happened. Sorry, I'm just another space opera that bombed. That probably would have gone on to be another series, but
I think Westworld it's not space opera, but it's very much like
it's a strong sci-fi fantasy world. Totally.
Very operatic sci-fi fantasy world. So I think that's something I'm looking forward to coming back. And then
takeaway number 3.
It's so easy to have like a multicultural cast. Like nobody was
making references to people's ethnicities like left and right in the film.
No,
you just name the characters and then you cast people.
Yeah, and there was no comment needed. There was nobody was in an uproar.
There was no drama about the main character, Jin, being, what are we going to listen to, a woman taking orders, blah, blah, blah,
exactly,
from us now?
I mean, I'm sure there's some dingles out there who got their panties in a twist.
Oh, I just mean in universe, in the script of the film.
In universe, exactly. They don't ever...
Yep, people just let her do her thing.
Which is great. And I think, especially in big budget fantasy fiction blockbusters, you can be allowed to have characters that are of different cultures and ethnicities and sexual orientations, and just allow that to exist and not... It doesn't need to be the center, and people, if you don't make it the center of attention, people aren't going to be in an uproar about it. because they're fantasies and fictions, and it's okay.
The end.
Yeah! Thank you for listening to... Oh, gee, my nipples.
Otherwise known as...
The Oral Tradition.
Boop. The podcast with Jordy,
David, and Jorbo. Wait, what's that I hear?
He came back! Jorbo! Oh no, Jorbo! You look all scratched up. Oh. But I guess you had fun outside. You seem happy.
What's that, Jorbo? You found a treasure map? Wait, let me see. Oh my goodness. David.
Yes?
This changes everything.